Okay, hello and welcome to the first Cycle Sync with G duo. So this is what Cycle Sync with the Gs.
Yeah. I feel nervous, like I wouldn't ever normally be nervous, but now I'm on your channel playing by your rules.
Mr. George Benson, football man.
Turn period boy.
Talking about periods today. So I'm going to do my best to answer with everything that I know on some general questions which men, women, anyone might have about the cycle. This episode is specifically on the luteal phase. I've just had an incredibly difficult luteal phase, although we've just moved country, and with that obviously comes diet change, environment change, the whole stress of moving, everything like that, which can really affect the hormonal balance. So yeah, that was really, really tricky for both of us. I guess we'll get into that later, and how fluctuations in the cycle can affect relationships, how each other feel. And even if you don't have, a partner that's there every day that can see these changes that you might not see, hearing this might help you recognize it in
for the future.
Yourself.
Yeah, or for men, I think it's
Yes.
it's good to know. And I think some people would be like, well, why would you care? It's like, well, why wouldn't you care? Is I think the main thing for a man to understand what's going on in your body, which then by default impacts the way that you would then behave to yourself, to others, and it basically makes it easier to either be around you if you're difficult, if you are prepared and know what's coming. So I guess, what is a luteal phase, first of all? Like, how long does it last, and what does it actually mean scientifically?
Can I say that's just why I love you, big time.
Aww.
Yeah, like that.
Aww.
So the luteal phase comes after ovulation.
So after the egg.
After the eggs come out. Egg comes out around day 14, and that's the fertile phase. So as soon as the egg has come out of the follicle...
So when you're fertile, what is it good to do? Pull out, boy. No, just clarifying. Anyway, back to the point.
Let's do a whole episode on the ovulatory phase as well.
I'd love to do a whole episode on fertilization. That'd be great.
Okay. Stay tuned. So the luteal phase is from day 14-ish of the cycle, which if you're tracking your cycle, day 1 is the first day of your period. And so day 14 is roughly when you ovulate. After that is the luteal phase.
Okay.
It's 2 weeks. 2 weeks long.
Yeah.
After ovulation, the hormones go down, and then the luteal phase...
What hormones go down?
All of them. FSH, LH, which we're mostly involved in ovulation. And then estrogen, which is a big one, estrogen is an energizing hormone, goes down. But then progesterone is going to rise. And progesterone is going to be the dominant hormone of the luteal phase. So that slow rise in progesterone starts to happen very soon into the start of the luteal phase.
So what does that look like in terms of like how it makes you feel as a woman? Like if your progesterone levels are going like that.
Yeah.
So when you're down here,
Yeah.
what's the general feeling normally?
Normally a little bit more like neutral, I guess, but also it's like these transition phases are very strange because you just obviously had this high estrogen and everything, and then it crashes, so then you're like, whoa, hang on a second, where am I? And then progesterone starts to climb. So it's a bit like disorientating, and that's why every single day of the cycle is so different.
Yeah, that's probably the most interesting thing about it, really, because my next question would be, if the luteal phase lasts for 14 days, what's the start like? And then because sometimes the period can be late, correct?
Yes.
So then is it almost like by the end of that period of time, not the end of the period, like that period of time,
Yes.
is it almost like, God, can you just like hurry up now and get on with it?
You can kind of feel it. It's almost like if you were like blowing into a balloon, and you start blowing into the balloon at the start of the phase, and it gets like bigger and bigger, and everything gets like more tense and tighter, and literally by the end of the luteal phase, you're like, it's coming soon because I'm literally gonna explode.
It better be coming soon, basically.
But that is a good point that you just said. If your period is late, it's because you ovulated late. So from ovulation until your next period should always be 14 days. So
that's very interesting. Okay.
So if it doesn't come on day 28, it's maybe because you ovulated on day 15 or day 16 or day 17 or a bit later.
Yeah.
And that's to do with estrogen in the follicular phase. So as progesterone starts to climb and rise, you definitely feel a difference like day to day. I'd say day 21, which is right in the middle, which on the graph you'll see is the peak of progesterone, sorry.
Okay.
So about a week after you've ovulated, a week before your period. That I'd say is probably the most like you feel you're very luteal because your progesterone is so high.
You say feel very luteal. A lot of people won't know what that feeling is.
Women will know what I mean, but sure.
But
men or anyone that doesn't.
Explain it for a man, because if someone says, well, I mean, now I know, obviously, because I watch and comment on all of your videos, and I am officially your biggest fan. Don't let anyone else in the comments tell you any different. But, like, what does that feel like? Like, can you specifically, Georgie, tell that day 21, when it is at its peak, do you know what that day feels like?
I'll explain a little bit of the biology behind it and then explain how it actually feels. So what's happening is the womb lining is thickening and thickening, so that if there was a fertilized egg in plants, it's like a perfect little cushy wall for to grow a baby.
Yeah.
That is energy intensive. When you get to about day 21, you've got like your uterus is swollen and bigger.
Yeah.
So you feel this like bloating, you might even see it. Like if you look in the mirror sideways.
Yeah, it looks like a little bump.
Which your body doesn't know if you're pregnant or not.
Wow,
by that.
So your body doesn't know at that point that there was no fertilization happening.
So it keeps thickening the wall, and then day 21 is about when it realizes, and then it starts to or a few days after that, then it starts to break it all down again to then the wall comes out with menstrual blood in the period. So this is what it does every single cycle.
So basically, it's like every time you have a period is because you didn't get pregnant.
Exactly, yeah.
So that in a nutshell is like for stupid guys or stupid people.
Yeah.
That's what it means.
Yeah.
Wow. It's
like the body crying everything out. And then
Speaking of crying,
and it has to.
There were a few tears this time around as well.
Lots of tears.
Why is it so? Okay, because as a guy, right, my initial reaction is, what the fuck is going on here? Like, what's happening? Like, you were fine 5 minutes ago. Now you're not fine. So why do things become so much more difficult?
Mostly the high level of hormones, because you've got estrogen and progesterone. Progesterone is naturally sedative. It makes everything feel much slower, lower. You've got lower energy. That's why it's like fatiguing. If you're more at home in your follicular phase where estrogen is high, like me, I like to play sport and do things and feel energized. This feeling of feeling like down naturally and not being able to go and do those things is quite frustrating. So that frustration in me makes me, I guess, more irritable. I think two main things. The tiredness and the fatigue and the low energy. Just when you're tired and everything is hard, like everything feels hard and everything feels annoying. So little things are just that much bigger when you're, tired. The other thing in the luteal phase is that your blood sugar regulation isn't as good. So naturally also your body isn't keeping your blood glucose as stable as it can the rest of the cycle, which means your moods and your energy are
fluctuating.
Are that much lower and that much higher, which causes these mood swings. So that is why, like, these 5 minutes ago you were like this, 5 minutes ago you were like that. It's, I think, a lot to do with this blood sugar regulation as well, which is affected by the hormones in the luteal phase.
So what's a good thing for you to be eating more of?
Protein. Loads of protein.
So
in this
steaks.
phase. Yeah, when you think about it, your uterine lining is thickening, and that's protein that's required to build tissue. It's tissue that you're growing. Your womb starts about this big and it ends up the size of an orange or something big.
Wow.
Like, your caloric requirement in this phase also, like, even if you're doing nothing all, you need those extra calories just to be building that tissue. So, but those calories, important that they come from fats, because fats are the building blocks of hormones, which, as we know, are high in this phase, and proteins. Super important proteins, because proteins are made up from amino acids. Amino acids are what is going to build that tissue, which is building inside you. They also won't create, neither proteins nor fats will create this spike in energy and dip in energy. They're both very low and slow burns, which is why lots of protein, healthy fats, not sugary foods or too high sugar or caffeine or anything like that can like add to these highs and lows, these mood swings, and eating little and often too. Like
Yeah, you're a snacker, aren't you? You're the eternal snacker.
the snackosaurus.
But I have a fascinating question, because I'm sure most men, when they think about periods,
Yeah.
they think about the old rumpy pumpies, don't they? No, I was just getting carried away. I was just thinking about the blood.
Yeah, which comes at the end of the luteal phase.
Yeah, but speaking of coming at the end of the luteal phase, like what does yeah, you know what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
I don't feel awkward about asking the question, but I'm just trying to keep, you know, I don't want this to become just like a
sex Q&A.
Yeah. But is it possible to, you know, do the deed in there? And
of course, and actually, this is a time where
you say of course though, but like,
you can have. Okay, that's good question. For women, libido goes out the window. Like,
out the window, so you don't want to have.
You do
sex.
not feel very.
I guess as a man also, if you have a bad stomach.
Yeah.
Well,
you don't want to. You don't think about it.
I do, just not as much. Do you know what I mean? Like, but I can understand that.
Yeah. And your energy's low, you're feeling like frustrated and moody and stuff. For me, I'm like concerned about what something will do to my future energy. So but naturally your like sexual desire this isn't the horny phase. And naturally also, you can't get pregnant in this phase.
Is that 100%? Because I think that is, it could be great advice if it's true.
Yeah.
But I've always been of the knowledge.
Yeah.
That, you know, I don't know if this is just Durex trying to get more money out of us all. Probably is. That's how business works.
And the contraceptive pill. Yeah.
You can't get pregnant, period.
I'm going to...
See what I did there? Or can you?
Okay.
Blow my mind.
I've got some facts here. Yeah, I'm going to blow some minds here. In the cycle, if you have a regular 28-day cycle, there are only 3 to 5 days in that cycle where you can get pregnant.
From doing the deed?
From doing the deed.
Wow.
From trains and tunnels.
From trains and tunnels. So that's like 1 in 6. But they're all consecutive days?
Yes.
In a month, I'm thinking in a month.
Yes, that is ovulation. So when you are ovulating, that is when there is an egg exposed out there available to be fertilized. You want to be careful, obviously, if your cycle isn't 100% regular, obviously give those 3 to 5 days some leeway. And one thing I will say is that sperm can live inside the body.
I'm glad you said that, because I was trying to figure out how I can word that.
Up to 5 days. What, sperm?
No, I know about those.
Up to 5 days. So if you have sex 5 days before you ovulate, the sperm might still be living in there. So that's why you do want to give this window quite a window.
So you need to clean more?
Huh?
Nothing.
But...
That's grim.
A good window.
Crusty.
But on your period, you cannot get pregnant. Like, there's no egg. Basically, if you think about it as there is no egg available.
Yeah.
And then same in the luteal phase. Like, you've ovulated, the eggs come out, the eggs then... If you have sex and there's sperm in there, like, it's fine. Sperm can have their own party. Like, there is no egg to be fertilized.
Amazing.
But this is why it is important to know when you ovulate. You can track your basal body temperature. That will tell you when you ovulate. But
just from the temperature of your body?
Yeah, goes super high.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's how, like, women can track, like, if you're trying for pregnancy and you're trying to get pregnant, women will take their temperature. So when it goes up and it's high, that's when you know you're
So we could make a how to get pregnant video.
We definitely could make a how to get pregnant.
That would slap. I reckon that would absolutely slap.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this is good knowledge. I think that's what most men, I think, would be interested in is those kind of questions.
Yeah.
But I think also for those that are more interested in, like, making sure you don't trip up, basically, because I have a tendency to trip up a lot during this phase of yours because, like I said earlier, like, I don't understand how from 1 minute something can be like this and then 5 minutes later it's not like that.
Yeah.
So what do you think? I wouldn't say most women because that's not fair because everyone's different. But what do you think specifically you require more of from your man, from your partner during this phase? Great question, wasn't it?
Yeah, great question. I think mostly women, although they can be very, like, touchy and kind of like, stay away from me, they're actually really craving understanding, support and empathy, and to just know that it's okay for them to feel like all over the place and they're still loved and there's still someone there and all of that. And this is where communication is huge, because it's not just for the guy to just take everything on the chin. I think there's gotta be some kind of, and I mean maybe that is the way to kind of not to see her differently in this phase. Yes, she is acting differently, but it's this like candid speaking, critical voice that comes out in this phase, which actually, if you think about it philosophically, in terms of the cycle itself, you have this phase where you can speak candidly and speak critically and get off your chest what you maybe were thinking about and other times but didn't say anything because you were a lot more tolerant and bulletproof and just kind of like just living your life and a bit more bubbly. Then you have this phase where your hormones and everything is like, no, this, you got to say this thing, you got to get it out, you got to air it, he's got to know, they've got to know they're pissing you off, your co-worker's got to know that like you do not like it when this and this happens. So that is kind of this phase in that philosophical way, is the airing the laundry phase. You know, everything comes out, you have everything out on the table. Does that kind of make sense? It's kind of healthy, and then you figure it out.
Yeah, it sounds healthy, but then it's also has to be relative, doesn't it? Because and that's why I'm asking the question of, and as a man, you see things logically, rationally, and because our hormones are not so like up and down because we're men, and that's how the male body works.
Sure.
That means that as a man, we see things pretty straightforward the whole time, and there isn't these fluctuations that have to be managed. So, I mean, I guess sometimes I would, and I think this is probably a fair thing to think, whether it's the right thing or not, I think questionable, but like take the phrase with a pinch of salt. So if you're being critical or you're saying something that you wouldn't normally say in that phase, is it better for the man to just like, nah, take it with a pinch of salt, don't take it too seriously, or take it more seriously? Like, it's difficult really to know what the right thing to do here is, because I know for a fact that you will say things during your luteal phase that just don't make any sense. If I'm being really blunt and honest.
I think
so I'm like, well, what do I do? What do you want from us?
I think what you said in the beginning is really relevant now and super important. Is just for everyone to have an awareness of what it feels like in each phase, and that, you know, the reasons why. But going back to what you said, I think she wants to feel heard. She wants to feel like listened to and supported. I think what she has to say, there's definitely something to it, but it definitely probably comes out with a bit more oomph than it would have, should have, could have.
Yeah.
Because she's just not in that frame of mind. It's a more like survival, like, I don't really give a shit how I say this, I'm just gonna say it. Like, that is generally the vibe. So I'd say that the luteal phase is not a time to address it. For women also, potentially, if you are less like wanting to get it out, write it all down, come back to it next week or the week after. That can help, like, not kind of cause conflict and things. But in general, I'd say to like listen to her. Maybe don't take it too seriously, but listen to it. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. Okay, so I'd say that I'm very traditional when it comes to being a man, and I like to hear things that are problems, and then I'm like, right, how do I solve that? So I guess during this phase, it's less about solutions for a woman from the man, and more so just about being present and being there. To acknowledge more so than provide answers to questions and problems. Because
scientifically, if we think about it too, the body's preparing for pregnancy. She needs to feel like if she was going to have a baby, that she's supported, that she has everything around her that she needs, that the people she's with she can trust. So you don't want to isolate her and make her feel like, you know, she's a problem. Batty nutcase.
Batty.
When she is actually being a batty nutcase, but she can't feel like that. Do you know what I mean?
So even basically, as the guy,
she probably already does feel like that, to be honest.
Yeah.
So escalating that it doesn't help her.
I know, and have the tendency to sometimes do this where, like, I find it difficult as a man to get out of that, like, problem solving, solution finding mode.
Yeah.
And then by default, like, my criticisms become very much heightened during this phase. So if you're going to get pissed off about something, probably the best thing to do would be to just wait a bit, wouldn't it? To, like, let the period come. When the blood flows, then, like, ironically, less blood flows. Do you know what I mean? Not that we get to the point where we're beating each other up. No, just to clarify. But it's less potential war zone-esque.
Yeah.
When that phase isn't happening.
Yeah, very true.
So if there is a problem to be solved, wait until after the Luteal phase.
Exactly. This isn't the phase to be solving problems. As a woman too, you got lower energy. You're not in a fighting phase, so it's not.
But that might not come across that way to you as a man.
Yeah.
Because it might feel like flipping out. She's difficult. She is trying really hard to wind me up.
Yeah, I think that was good. Do you have any remaining questions that you'd like to that are burning deep inside you?
No, I think you speak so well about all of these things, darling. I think you go on little tangents sometimes, and like the questions that I was going to ask. No, the opposite. You answer the question, but then you answer probably like the next two that I would have lined up.
Hopefully that was helpful.
Yeah.
And if there's anything we didn't cover, add that in the comments. And stay tuned for a menstrual, follicular, and ovulatory, which is what you're looking for.
I can't wait for that episode. We should make that one a bit more active, I think.
Okay. Okay. See you next time.